All right, well, as I sit here in the fucking car wash line that's still 4 cars deep, plus the one in the car wash, which means I'm waiting a while. What the hell? I kind of was going to do one anyway, so let's, at some point today, so let's do the video now. The topic of today's lesson, or today's sermon, it's about the lessons to be learned from the football playoffs, from the NFL playoffs for the Vikings, and mostly for fans and media, because it seems like it's been very frustrating watching the playoffs from the standpoint of you see the response on social media, and people, whether they're fans or media, in many cases, they're just learning all the wrong lessons from these games. They're learning the wrong lessons about how to find quarterbacks, how to get quarterbacks, how to build teams, how to do everything. Because a lot of people just don't like to accept that there are many, many different ways to build a team. Okay, this year, the two teams that are in the Super Bowl, one of them, they'll say the Bengals tanked to get Joe Burrow. They didn't tank. They were just bad. They were just bad. People don't seem to understand the difference between tanking and just being bad. So there's the group of people who are like, oh, see, this is what the Vikings have to do. They have to tank so they can be at the top of the draft and draft a quarterback. On the other one, you got the Rams, who, just from the quarterback position, well, they went and made a trade. They went and made a trade for a quarterback who, prior to this year, I don't think many people would have said there was a significant difference between Matthew Stafford and Kirk Cousins. But you went and got Stafford. You paired him with a really good, maybe the best in the game right now, offensive coaching. And look what happened. You're in the Super Bowl. Now, it wasn't just getting Stafford, because they were in a Super Bowl a few years ago with Jared Goff, who I don't think is, I think there's a significant difference between Goff and Stafford, and I think most people would agree. But, for this one, so now it's like, oh, you have to go out and identify the quarterback and coach him up and stuff. Well, we already have that guy, don't we? Isn't Kirk Cousins that guy? Isn't the whole point kind of that we fired the coach, that he wasn't doing what was needed to maximize this offense and this roster? So, but beyond and then beyond just the Rams and the Bengals, you've got the 49ers who got their quarterback in a trade, and built up a roster built on being really strong on the two lines, and running the ball a lot, and having some playmakers in the passing game to help the quarterback out. And obviously the Chiefs, they got the unicorn in Mahomes. But even then, second half, into OT, the opposing defense made Mahomes look terrible. He made them look like Christian Ponder. And that might be an insult to Christian Ponder. And I could go down the freaking list of every team that was in the playoffs this year. But I mean, the point that these people just don't want to accept is there's lots of different ways to build a team. Because the number one thing now is we got to trade Cousins, and we have to tank and get draft picks and get a quarterback and build that way. And we're on the move, so I got to pause here. 1 second, please. Okay, we are 1 car closer. This is getting exciting. All right, what was I fucking talking about? They're saying, the thing we have to do now is, what the Vikings have to do, and this is what they absolutely have to do, is trade away Kirk Cousins and, tank. We can't possibly hope. Mark Wilson came out and said that they expect to be competitive next year. Nope, we can't do that. We have to tank and draft a quarterback, and then if that doesn't work, then we draft another one, and if that doesn't work, then we draft, and just have this endless cycle of just, pinning all our franchise hopes on a complete unknown quarterback out of college, which is just it's a wild goose chase, man. You don't want to do that. You do that, people are going to hold up the Bengals as this example. This is the first time this has ever worked out like this, where a team has drafted. First of all, you have to be bad enough to draft, a quarterback or draft whoever at the top of the draft. Like you have to, and they were, of course, and then they were bad enough last year that they could get Jamar Chase. But you have to be bad enough to get this draft pick, to get the quarterback to begin with. And it's never happened before. It's never worked out this way before. There are teams that have gotten to Super Bowls and won Super Bowls with quarterbacks that they drafted with the number one pick. Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, Troy Aikman, almost Carson Wentz. I mean, technically the Eagles won a Super Bowl with him on the roster, but it's very fucking rare that this happens. And even if it does, it's completely unprecedented that it's ever gotten, that a guy has ever gotten to this point this quickly. Like Brady was in his second year, but he wasn't obviously a number one pick, and I'm sure there's a couple other examples of guys who are young quarterbacks. They get there. Well, like Roethlisberger got there in year 2, but he was not a number one, top of the draft pick. Like it's never happened before. So this is not the blueprint that people think it is, because it just doesn't happen. It's never happened before. Maybe he wins the Super. Maybe they win. Maybe the Bengals win the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. Maybe they don't. But even getting to this point, it just does not happen. I mean, of the two paths to take of these two teams, the Ram path is way more doable and way more plausible for the Vikings, and they've already got the quarterback. They just need the coach. Now they're doing the second interviews this week, or maybe even today, with a couple of these coordinators. They're O'Connell from the Rams and Bryans from the 49ers, and I think Raheem Morris is getting another interview, and then Jim Harbaugh's maybe in the mix still. There's been some conflicting stuff out on that. But it's mind-boggling and mind-numbing and so irritating when, like, I watch these games and these other people watch these games and I see what the actual lessons are from this, and these other people just don't get it. The lesson is essentially that there isn't a lesson. There isn't one all-powerful, foolproof blueprint for getting to a Super Bowl, winning a Super Bowl, finding a quarterback, whatever. There's just not one way to do it. Every team that gets to the Super Bowl does it in some, even if it's just a small thing. Every single one of these situations is unique in some way. We've seen like the Rams are very much an all-in team. They've traded away lots and lots of draft picks, spent a lot of money. They're in an all-in spot. We've seen a lot of all-in teams before. I suppose Tampa Bay last year would be considered one of them. But we've also seen a lot of all-in teams not work out, including here, like Favre in 09. But even that, we got close. I mean, hell, doesn't mean we didn't get there, but we got close. Doesn't mean it was a bad idea to try. It bothers me that these people just they just learn the wrong lessons. They don't seem to get it. There's so many different ways to build a team, and maybe obviously, like, whatever the next path is that the Vikings choose, whatever this team looks like going into 2022 and beyond, maybe that won't be the right decision. Maybe they won't pick the right path. But I don't know that there is, like I said, I don't think there is a right path. It takes so much more these people live in such a simplistic world where there's only one thing you can do. There's only one way to do it. I know this, they say it's a copycat league, but yeah, you can copy certain things, but there's just not a one way thing to do it. You have to be able to try different ways, because guess what? If every team did it the same way, well, it's still only going to work out for some of these teams. Only one team can win it a year. So does that mean one of 32 teams is going to end up winning a Super Bowl, as is the case every year? Does that mean all 31 of these other teams did it the wrong way? Should they just not have done anything? I don't get it. People are almost getting into accidents over here in a park. So, but there's so many different ways to do it. The Vikings tried one of them. Well, originally signing Kirk Cousins was that was their path. Now, it hasn't worked to this point. Maybe it'll never work. But if their defense had stayed good, and their coaching hadn't, as we've basically learned at this point, been sabotaging almost deliberately the offense for years, maybe it would have worked out. Oh, I think we're going to be moving again. I got to pause it again. We're getting closer. All right, we're back, and we're one car closer still. Moving again. Hold on. Okay, the magical door is down, which means we are definitely in the waiting period again for a few. It's just there's so many different ways to build rosters, but people get their agendas. Certain people in this town have obviously there's certain people in this town, media-wise, who have agendas against the quarterback that we have right now. So they only see one path to succeed, and that path involves getting rid of the current quarterback at all costs. It doesn't matter what it doesn't matter what the follow-up move is. What do you do at quarterback after that? They don't care. They just want the current quarterback gone. Even though there's nothing, and I don't care if people think this is stupid or not. There's nothing that Matthew Stafford has accomplished this year to this point that Kirk Cousins cannot accomplish with a similar team and coaching surrounding him. Now, maybe we can't get that. Maybe we can't get to that point. I still think we're going to hire an offensive-minded coach, or at least have a guy who's certainly more interested in the offense than Mike Zimmer was, and is not going to do things like actively sabotage the offense. People have just made up their minds so much about Kirk. It's just so irritating, man. And Kirk, Matthew Stafford, I think the perception for him for years had been that Detroit was dragging him down. He got to the playoffs I think 3 times, at least twice, maybe 3 times. Didn't win in the playoffs. But I think the perception of him was that he's better than his predicament, and his surroundings would lead some to believe. And yeah, I think Kirk is the same. I think he's right on the same line. If you want to do QB rankings or whatever, he's on the same line as Stafford. And people are like, ooh, Kirk Cousins never been to a Super Bowl. He never even been to a championship game. So how can he be the same coach? Because it's a team game, you fucking dolts. It's just a team game. I don't think Matthew Stafford himself is appreciably different this year than he was in previous years. But he was on Detroit with, and the Vikings are better than Detroit, as an organization for sure. But it's similar in that the supporting cast has not been as good as the quarterback, and the coaching has not been as good as the quarterback. And I think we have not quite as disastrous a situation as that here, but we're it ain't apples to apples, but it's not quite apples to oranges either. It's somewhere in between. And it's possible we may never even see what happens with Kirk with a different coaching staff, because we may not, Kirk Cousins' last game as a Viking could be the Pro Bowl next week. Congrats to Kirk for getting to the Pro Bowl, by the way, replacing Aaron Rodgers, who bowed out due to injured ego. But that could be his last game with the Vikings is the Pro Bowl. They might make a trade. They might do something. I don't know. That's certainly not going to be determined by agenda-driven media and just hater fans. That's going to be determined by Kwesi and whichever coach, and probably the ownership is going to have a bit of a say in that too, because it's their highest paid player. It's just, there's so many different ways to go about winning football games and getting to the playoffs and getting deep in the playoffs. And we haven't done it very much. I mean, we've been in some NFC championship games, but we haven't gotten to the Super Bowl. And we've tried it, various different ways. We've done the, bring in the aging star. We've brought, bring in the veteran, try out with rookies and all different things. And, after everything, we came within a game of the Super Bowl with Case Keenum, who was, just a guy we signed as a backup. Now, we didn't get to the Super Bowl, but I mean, if you can get to an NFC Championship game, you could get to a Super Bowl. A lot of it's so much of it is just about matchups and luck and just all this shit. Because it's not like, teams lost in the championship games this week, so that means their way of doing things can't work. No, there's so many different ways. How many times do I have to say it? I've still got a couple cars in front of me, so I can say it many, many more times before I'm done here. Vikings have tried it many different ways. It hasn't worked. That doesn't mean it didn't work with Favre. Does that mean that was a bad idea to even try with Favre? No, of course not. It didn't work out in 2017. Does that mean that we shouldn't have built a defensive roster? And no, it hasn't worked out to this point with Cousins. Does that mean that you should never, if a really good free agent quarterback becomes available, that means you shouldn't go pay the price that it costs to get a guy like that? Of course not. People are so hung up about this fucking cap number. Cap, you're like, people are like, if we weren't paying Kirk so much money, maybe we could have spent money on defense and then that could have helped the team. Well, I mean, we spent almost the same amount of money this year as the Bengals did. It's just, the Bengals on the offense, their two stars are a rookie receiver and a second-year quarterback. It's like, there's so many different ways to do this. So much of it is about coaching. You think coaching does? How can anyone not think coaching doesn't matter? We're on the move again. Pause. Oh, it's very exciting. We are so close to getting in here. I will stop before I get in there. I don't know how anyone can watch the games from yesterday and tell me that coaching isn't still a huge thing. It's not just about who you have at quarterback. For 2+ quarters yesterday, we saw the best quarterback in football reduced to a bum. Mahomes was a bum for 2+ quarters in that game. Obviously, coaching matters. It doesn't matter, maybe the Rams will devise something in the Super Bowl that makes Joe Burrow look terrible, or vice versa. It's just, coaching is such a huge thing. We clearly just have not had the coaching that, at one point we thought we did with Zimmer, and we did with Zimmer, but not once. He wanted to kind of win it his way, and his way did not match with bringing in Kirk Cousins. That's clear. It's clear as day that was not something that he wanted. I think he's wrong. I think he should have been much more open to kind of letting this become a Kirk show, the last few years. But it's just frustrating. It's like yeah, we didn't win a Super Bowl last couple years. We didn't even get to the playoffs with Cousins. We had fucking horrible defenses. Other things matter. We had terrible defenses. We had very, very ill-advised, to say the least, coaching philosophies and decisions. Injuries, and it's like there's so much that goes into winning. So much that goes into winning a Super Bowl, or even getting to a Super Bowl. It is not just about, you look at a 53-man roster, and beyond that, practice squads, and it's not just about what you do with one fucking position. It's not just about the quarterback. It's just not. And if you go and you trade Kirk Cousins and tank the roster now, and trade away everybody, and lose on purpose, you're not even close to guaranteed success after this. And I'm sorry, I'm not one of these people who's okay with, let's just be awful for multiple years, which the odds are you probably will be if you gut the roster and get rid of the quarterback. Coach, you're gonna bring in a new coach, and you're gonna fucking instantly sabotage him by making it ain't the only position, but quarterback is the most important position. It's not the only position though, but you're gonna instantly sabotage the new coach by making the most important position on the team worse for a lottery ticket that maybe will pay off. Maybe. But the odds are it probably won't. Because look at all the, people. It's not just because, Joe Burrow is in the Super Bowl in year 2 as a number 1 draft. There's been a lot of other number 1 draft picks and a lot of other high first-round draft pick quarterbacks who never got even this far, or were just complete busts. I don't want that for this team. I'm sorry. That's not the path we are on right now. I'm fully on board with keeping Kirk Cousins. Yeah, you're going to have some amount of retooling and roster turnover, because you always do. And maybe they will get rid of some of the vets. But there's not, unless you're going to go out and get a Russell Wilson or something. I'd be open to that. I don't think that's going to happen. There's maybe a couple other guys out there who could conceivably become available, who maybe, if you get them, to replace Kirk, okay, you can still do something. But it's mind-boggling that people think that the solution to what we have right now is to get rid of Kirk for a fucking lottery ticket that most of the time doesn't work out, and even if it does, probably doesn't work out anywhere near as fast as people now are going to assume that they will because of Joe Burrow. Like, it's insufferable to deal with these people because it's just not how it works, man. There's so many different paths to winning a Super Bowl or getting to a Super Bowl. And so many people in this fan base and media, and I think a lot of the fans just take what certain media people say and just think that because they're media that, oh, we should listen to them. No, you shouldn't. Because these people got agendas, man. These people have agendas against the current quarterback. And it ain't going to matter what happens. It's always his fault. It's always the quarterback's fault. It's like there's so many ways to do this. Like, I don't want this team. Like if you could guarantee me that if the Vikings were intentionally to tank a season or two, that they were going to get a quarterback, a star, an instant star young quarterback, and they were going to be in a Super Bowl in a couple years, of course I would take that. But you can't guarantee it. Nobody can guarantee it. In fact, the odds are very strongly in the opposite direction that it ain't going to work out. I don't, like, you can call it fear or whatever if you want. It's not about fear, but I don't want this franchise to sink. Like, you could say we're just stuck in mediocrity. Well, there's a place that's worse than mediocrity, and we could get there if we fuck around and I'm on the move again. If we fuck around and make the wrong decision with this quarterback for reasons that really just don't make sense. We're going to pause one last time and then we'll wrap it up. Yes, we have reached the terminal. We are the next up, so I'm going to wrap this up. I mean, I suppose I continue into the car wash, but I've already been talking for a very long time. God damn, I hate nothing worse than a long line at the car wash. Yeah, been here like a half an hour. But yeah, I don't want that for this team. I don't want this team to be. I don't want this team to go chasing, go off on a wild goose chase, chasing the next star quarterback. Which, guess what? You don't even need to tank to get a fucking quarterback at the top of the first round. You don't. You can get quarterbacks other ways. It's working out so far with Burrow. Mahomes was not even was a number 10 pick. Josh Allen was not a number 1 pick. You can get there. You can get there with other ways. You have to have coaching, and you have to have a team around them. And then you need a little luck, I mean, like fucking Stafford threw a punt interception yesterday, and the guy just drops it. If he catches that, Stafford might not be playing in a Super Bowl. Like, I just don't want this franchise to buy into the, and I think that, like, Kwesi and whoever the new coach is, I think they're smarter than these agenda-driven media morons. I don't think they're going to make decisions, and they may make this decision to move on from Kirk, but they're not going to make the decision for the reasons that these people want. So I just don't want this franchise to condemn themselves to just years and years and years of just being really awful because they buy into this belief that you have to just throw the whole franchise out just in the service of catching lightning in a bottle with one player at one position. It's just not the way to do it. I'm sorry, it's just not. Tanking is a loser mentality. Losing begets more losing more often than not. And even if you do get a quarterback, I mean, you could be the Browns. They got a number 1 draft pick quarterback, and they got to the playoffs once, but now they're at the point where they might be looking for another quarterback, maybe even Kirk Cousins. It's like we've been saying it for years. We've got a pretty damn good quarterback, and we just treat him like shit. We treat him like he's Christian Ponder, and I don't get it. Like, maybe the decision will be to move on from him, and maybe the decision will be to to go with try to go with the rookie, or go with Kellen Mond even. I don't know, but I hope this franchise and the people in charge and the people who are going to be in charge are smart enough to know that there are many different ways to build a team that can win a Super Bowl or get to a Super Bowl, and I hope they explore every one of those options. So we're almost in the car wash. Thank you for coming to my sermon. Have a nice day.